What's going on, everyone? It's Rylan with Rylan's Amazing Photography, and in today's video I'm going to show you all the behind the scenes of how I was able to capture two beautiful white-tailed deer. They were both 8-point bucks. I don't have full behind the scenes footage of how I was able to capture this phenomenon and the beautiful two deer that I was able to capture, but I'm going to tell you about how I did it, and it is quite the story, to say the least. I'm also going to show you all some footage of the deer as well as some photos of the deer towards the end of the video. So I was actually at home, and it had been a really dreary, cloudy day, and I looked out the back windows of my house, to which I seen 3 deer. There was a doe and there was 2 bigger deer. I was pretty far away in my house, so I couldn't really tell if it was a buck or more does. But the way that they were kind of moving their heads, I thought that it looked like they probably had a rack, and I was correct. So I left my house, and I had my Nikon D500 along with my Nikon 200 to 500 f5.6 lens, and I was pretty stealthy to get to a good position. There's a barn behind my house, and I got to that barn and hid behind the barn. And I walked behind the barn where there is a backhoe. I'm not sure if you know what that is, but if you're curious as to what a backhoe is, I'll put a picture of one on the screen right now. So what I did was I got on top of the backhoe, and I was real stealthy about it, and I was just kind of like hiding in the driver's seat, and I like had my camera, and I was taking some pictures. At this time, I was still pretty far away, but the deer had no clue that I was there, which was fantastic. But I wasn't happy with the range that I was getting of the photos. It was still just too far off for my liking. I really like close-up pictures. You all know that. That's no secret. So I was determined to somehow get closer to the deer. I didn't know how I was going to do it. So I get down off of the backhoe, and it was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But finally, I had an idea, and I went with the idea, and it was to army crawl on the field. Where the deer were positioned, they were kind of like straight ahead of me, but to the left of me there was a big hill that I was able to kind of crawl up. So I started making my way forwards and up the hill at the same time, which was, difficult. The next day I was really sore from army crawling up and forwards on this hill. It's a pretty decent sized hill. So I finally get to a position where I'm able to be much closer to the deer, and it's great. I'm getting really good shots. It's incredible. But remember earlier I said that it was in the afternoon. So at this point it's getting pretty close to dark, and it's pretty dark outside. So I'm really having to crank my ISO up, which I don't like doing on the D500 because its ISO performance just isn't that great. I was at ISO 4000, which is really high. I don't like getting above ISO 1000 on the D500. But I did recently invest in Topaz Denoise AI. So I was in the back of my mind, I was thinking, please, Topaz, you got to do good and come through for me on this one. And it did, of course. Topaz works really well. I totally recommend it if you are having to get high noise shots a lot. Anyways, so I positioned myself up on this hill, and I'm getting some fantastic photos. At this point, the deer, I think they had picked up on my scent, or they had maybe got a glance of me. I was in camouflage. I had on a camo jacket and black pants, so I wasn't like totally standing out in their vision, I don't suppose. But they were kind of looking up and around ever so often, which kind of made me aware, yeah, they know something's up. They probably know that I'm here, but they hadn't like seen me. They didn't realize 100% that I was there. They were just kind of suspicious about something, which was great because they would pick their head up every now and then from eating to allow me to get some really good photos. In the process of crawling to a good position, it probably took me 20 minutes to get there because it was a huge hill, and every now and then I would stop and take breaks because the deer would look up even when they weren't entirely aware of my presence, and I didn't want them to see movement. So it took a pretty decent amount of time to get to where I was going. I got splinters in my hands, which was a really fun time. The grass there was just like rough, and I don't guess it's considered splinters, but it was like, I don't know, pieces of the grass got stuck and lodged in my hand, which is a really fun time. But the pictures were pretty fantastic, and I was really happy with them. So here's some video footage, and here are the pictures. So that is the pictures and the video footage. You seen me laying on the ground, which was quite the fun time. Something that I want to note and tell you all, 2 of those pictures I did pretty extensive editing on beyond Topaz denoise. What I did was I used Topaz on every single one of those pictures, but Topaz just wasn't cutting it for my 2 favorites, which was the final 2 images that I put on the screen. So what I did for those 2 images was after putting them Topaz and denoising the image pretty well, I still wasn't happy with it. So I went into Photoshop and I masked out the deer. So that means that I created a separate layer of only the deer. What I did then was I overlaid that new layer of the masked out deer on top of the deer on the original layer, but on the original layer I used a Gaussian blur. And when you use a Gaussian blur, it's pretty much just like bokeh of a camera. It makes it real smooth and blurry, and when I did that you couldn't really recognize that there was noise in the background. So while the deer still had some noise on it, it wasn't bad at all because of Topaz. It wasn't as noticeable because I used Gaussian blur on the background, so it looked really smooth, nice and crisp, and that is how I like to have my images without any grain. So that worked out really well for me. So I want to know, what is your favorite image? Which one of those was your absolute favorites? I said that mine were the last 2. If you can narrow it down to 1, I am dying to know what yours is because I enjoy getting feedback from you all. Leave me a comment down below. Do you enjoy videos like these? I don't do them a lot. This is pretty much a story behind the image, except it's story behind the images. Just let me know if you want more of these videos. I hope you all did enjoy today's video, and that's all I've got for you all, and I hope you guys have an amazing day.